I'm Nick Terzo, and you are listening to The Radical. This week, we get to talk about holiday music. My guest today releases his EP, It's a Snow Globe World, filled with original holiday songs by guest artists such as Rita Wilson, Karen Elson, Patty Griffin, and Sarah Buxton. Having won a couple of Grammys for his incredible collaborations with Kacey Musgraves that have wowed us all, producer and songwriter Daniel Tashian joins me to discuss working with legends like T-Bone Burnett and Burt Bacharach, the impact of legendary holiday song composers like Vince Guaraldi and Johnny Marks, the Grammy snub of Kacey Musgraves' new album, Star-Crossed, from the country category, and his own unique path to success in following his very own compass. Coming up, my conversation with Daniel Tashian. Hi, Daniel.
Hey, Nick, what's going on?
Man, I'm really happy to have you and to have this conversation in the spirit of the season.
Well, it's great to be here. And yeah, it is the season.
So you have it's an EP, right, of Christmas songs called It's a Snow Globe World, and it's out today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on here to talk about snow globes and, anything else you want to talk about. But yeah, I'm a Christmas guy, I pretty much, the day after Christmas, I started counting down until next Christmas when I was a kid. So, Christmas is my favorite. So there you go.
Is that part of being a New England bred kid? I mean, that it has that type of impact?
I think it has something to do with that. I mean, I just liked everything about it. The maple syrup, the snow days, the Nat King Cole music, the gifts. I would go around a different grandparents' house and get like 3 or 4 Christmases. Everybody had a tree, and it was just the best thing ever. Still is.
Yeah, it totally is. I'm curious, because I've seen some of your stuff where you've actually painted some of the artwork. Did you do that for this EP too?
The EP cover was painted by my wife, Lillian Fish. I think she did that in markers, these like Copic markers, and then she added some snow with acrylic paint. So yeah, she's a real talented artist. I've got her. If you are seeing the visual side of this, I've got her paintings in my studio here. That's a portrait of Karen Elson over my shoulder there, and there's an album cover for one of my Silver Seas albums over there. So I got her artwork everywhere. I'm her biggest fan.
That's fantastic. It's very well. I can understand why. So you've put together these are all original songs, right? Written by you.
Yeah, a lot of them co-written with my sort of co-stars, and we worked on them over the summer because that's what you have to do when you want music to come out now. You can't just decide, I'm feeling there's a nip in the air. I think I'd like to make some Christmas music. Well, you had to have thought about that when it was really hot if you want it to come out now, because it takes a long time to get it all properly made. So I get myself in the Christmas mood in the summertime.
That's funny. You deck out the studio just to help psychologically.
I don't even really do that. I did have on my desk, I did have like a little snow globe that was a light it was funny. We rented this house in the mountains, and I just found this globe in the closet, and I was up there to write some Christmas songs, and it just happened to be sitting in the closet, and I pulled it out. It wasn't my house, and turned it up. It had a battery in it and everything, and it just makes the whole room look like a disco ball with snowflake lights everywhere. It was pretty unusual.
It's fantastic. Talk to me a little bit about some of your collaborations on this EP.
Well, after the Burt Bacharach music came out, I got an email from Rita Wilson, who I had met maybe a decade ago. During one day, we had written a song together and really hadn't talked to her since. And she just wrote me this email that said, I'm just knocked out by this Burt Bacharach stuff. I need to know like how this came about, and please like talk to me about like what is he like? What's his process like? And, I love the music so much. I love your voice so much. And I said, well, I'm going to be in LA next week. And she said, well, you must come and have lunch with Tom and I. We're going to be there. And so I said, okay, she says, are there any dietary concerns? And I said, well, it needs to be vegan and gluten free, which was where I was at that point. But so we kind of struck a friendship back up after the Burt thing. And, I said, well, I'm thinking about doing this Christmas project. Would you want to do a song with me? And she was like, yeah, well, what are you thinking? And I sent her a little idea that I'd come up with over the summer. And she said, I love that. Let's get on Zoom and write it. So she was in Greece and I was in East Tennessee, and we got on the computer like you and I are, Nick. And, I had my guitar and I could see the Greek Isles in the background out the window. And, we wrote this song. And then it was sort of similarly, Karen Elson lives in the neighborhood. She's a friend, and I just think she's a fantastic musician. I love her voice. And I said, Karen, you got to come over, and I've got this idea for us for a Christmas song. And she came right over and immediately picked up on where I was going with it and wrote the second verse and, really put it. I was thinking, with all these people, I think about them. And when I'm writing the songs with who I want to work with me, with Patty Griffin, like she had done a sort of a jazzy thing on one of her records, a song called Go Now that I'd always loved. And it was like a mood that she didn't get into very often. And I sent her a text message. I said, would you want to do I asked people to do this kind of stuff before I have the songs. And if they say yes, then that gets me inspired, and I start to think about them, and then I start to write a little bit of an idea.
Yeah, well, the Snow Globe World with Patty Griffin is so beautiful. I mean, what a beautiful song and performance, man. I mean, that should become a classic.
You want to, this is a tricky thing, and I'm glad you said that, but, most people sort of go to, it's just like ketchup, Nick. Like, when you want to have ketchup on your French fries, you don't want it's nice that they're trying to make ketchup, but like Sir Kensington or whatever kind of ketchup that is. It's nice that they're making it out of Hunt's. It's like, no, you want Heinz because that's the taste of childhood, and it's almost similarly to Christmas music. When you want to hear Christmas music, you want the classics because that's what's tied in and connected to the memories. So my hope is that, each generation sort of serves and volleys their own ideas up. And I mean, if kids hear these songs, then they're going to want to hear them, when they're older. So, it's never too late to try to write a Christmas classic, except for the fact that it's very hard. It's like trying to invent a new ketchup.
Yeah. And look, you're not walking into this like some, naive guy. I mean, it's like you've done about a dozen of these for other artists, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Prior to this?
Yeah. I love doing them. Yeah.
Have any of those become a little bit more standardized? Have you noticed anything in that repertoire? I do hear pretty often around the holidays, like if you're in the mall or you're in, Michael's or something like that. I do hear Baby It's Christmas by Jesse James Decker quite frequently. It's one of those, it's not a subtle, thing of beauty. It's just a straight punch you in the throat Christmas song, Well, the other one I thought was interesting because you mixed up a lot of stylistically here, and you probably, as you mentioned earlier, somewhat based on the people that kind of committed here. But I thought the Santa's Magic Sleigh, with Sarah Buxton was kind of interesting because it's almost like some kind of a house chill song.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the thing, you can either, let people in on your process, or you can give more of a controlled version of what you do. You can sort of say, and there are situations where you have to be very controlled, but this is sort of one of those ones that I was like, this is my process. It's random. And when I was in the mountains, I didn't have anything but this kind of drum machine. I had like a drum machine and one keyboard. And so that's how the sound of it came out, because that's what I had, And I mean, I guess McCartney, I was thinking about McCartney because he does things that, have orchestras on them. And then he's got that Simply Having a Wonderful Christmas, which is like, it's got all these drum machines on it and stuff, and he doesn't care. It's fine. It is what it is. I don't need to present myself as a very stylistically disciplined person.
Right. And do you, let's jump back a minute. As a child, you met a legendary songwriter in this category, so to speak. Do you think something got passed on to you in that interaction or meeting?
No, I don't. I just didn't even know. I'll tell you what got passed on: the awareness that was even a job. I mean, that songwriting was even a job. I mean, I think when my grandmother, I think she would have been a songwriter, but she grew up in the 30s, and, women didn't become songwriters then. I mean, there were women writing songs, but it was sort of kind of a man's job, sort of like filling the gas up. It's like my wife never wants to fill the gas up. I don't know why, but she considers that to be a man's job. And, I hope that's not alienating to any listeners. But anyway, it just hadn't occurred to me that was something you could do. And it also hadn't occurred to me that anyone even sat down to write Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I thought it just existed as an account, a factual account of an occurrence. I didn't think you could even write anything like that. And I sort of still feel that way. I mean, some things are handed down from the gods, it's from Zeus's tablet or whatever you want to make of it. But it's like a lot of those early Dylan songs, or, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I mean, you don't write that, it's like I tell people, sometimes a crumb falls from God's table.
And the guy we're talking about here is Johnny Marks, who wrote some of for some of us of a certain age, and they're classics now, so everyone, some of the greatest legendary Christmas songs of our lifetimes.
No doubt.
Or anybody's lifetime, right?
No doubt.
Yeah. I always tell a story. I had when I worked at ASCAP, before I became an A&R man, someone wrote a letter from Irving Berlin's estate to me on ASCAP stationery as a joke, basically saying that he was granting me a portion of White Christmas. He was, and I have it's just a funny letter, but it was officially written on ASCAP stationery. And I used to put that up on my door at the record companies when I worked there. Everyone was like, I cannot believe you own a piece of White Christmas. Everyone believed it. It was the greatest.
Man, oh boy, if you did, you'd probably be having this conversation with me from a boat off the coast of Crete.
Isn't it in a public domain by now or not?
I don't think so. Nope. Somebody's still cashing those checks.
Yeah, they keep adding that life plus 70 years or whatever it is. So is there a song then, like from your childhood or like through your years, that like really became the penultimate for you that you think is the greatest Christmas song?
Well, it's funny you should ask that, because I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's Chestnuts Roasting. I know it's not called Chestnuts Roasting, but I'll never forget it. It must have been Christmas Eve in Westport, Connecticut. I was probably about 6 years old. And, there were radios all over my grandparents' house and different stereos. I mean, he had a wonderful tube amplifier. He probably got it at the Western Auto for like $50 or something, but it was fantastic. And Nat King Cole came on and the whole house stopped. And it was kind of, I mean, my grandmother was sort of a bit of a classical snob. She didn't really, she was riding in the car with me one time and Outkast came on, and the only thing she had to say was ghastly. But anyway, it stopped everyone in their tracks. And I just remember as a little boy listening to the lyrics of that song and just being like, can you hear this? No, you can't hear it. I know. I don't know why. Oh, I know why. If you could hear it. Anyway, I won't worry about it right now, but man, what a song. Yeah. Chestnuts.
So fantastic. And do you think when you were growing up as a child, because we were, and I'm a little older than you, so I was fortunate to have all the Bank and Rass stuff and all the, Charlie Brown stuff. I mean, is there anything out of those cartoons that you thought was like really brilliant?
Oh, incredible. Vince Guaraldi, unbelievable. Absolutely. No denying. That's it right there. You can listen to that Vince Guaraldi Christmas record. You could probably listen to it 10 times in a row and you would never get fatigued. You would never feel like, oh God, turn this off. I'm sick of this. I mean, it is so graceful and such elegant music, and it's got so much humanity and beauty to it. I mean, I hired this wonderful pianist named Jody Nardone that lives here to teach me Chestnuts Roasting, because I thought I'm going to be at a Christmas party and someone's going to say, do a song. And that would be the only one I would want to do. And he said, well, you've got to be able to do it drunk, because you're going to be at the party and you're going to be drinking, and I'm going to show you're going to practice blindfolded, and he went through all this stuff. And, and so I practiced it and practiced it and practiced it. And it was like, I started in like August and just kept practicing it. And I was like, okay, I think I can. Sure enough, I went to a Christmas party and had a few drinks, and then there was a piano there, and the fire was getting low, and there were a few people sitting around. They said, "Why don't you do a song?" And I said, and I got over to the keyboard and I started to play, and then a voice came behind me, this beautiful voice. And I turned around and I thought, who is that? And it was Michelle Branch. And she had started singing along. And I thought, oh boy, this is serious now. Michelle Branch is singing along. And then I got to the bridge and I missed it. I was too drunk. And she said, she kind of laughed nervously and she said, are you joking right now? And I was like, I'm sorry. So then I got home and practiced it again, but now I really can do it blindfolded in every way because I had to be embarrassed. I mean, that's the only way you sort of learn is these painful things, you know.
So are you up for it this season or not?
Absolutely. I've already been practicing, but the problem is no one's invited me anywhere because why would you?
So let's go back a little bit with your history. Your parents were artists, songwriters, and performers. A friend of mine swears that your dad wrote a song with the Remains that he thinks is the greatest song ever written. I don't remember the title of the song, but he was deadly serious.
Okay. He's serious. He's a serious songwriter for sure.
I mean, they've gotten cuts for a lot of like major artists, right?
I mean, you know, I think they probably, you know, it's funny. One of the biggest songs that my dad wrote was a legal battle. Was one of those kind of like songs mired in legal, you know, legal. I don't know, what do you call it?
Litigation.
But I always felt sad about that for him. But it was a song called "Ooh, Las Vegas," which was recorded by a number of people, but mainly Graham Parsons. But he just sort of, you know, it was a discouraging thing. I remember that whole process and kind of, but you know, I always loved the Remains and I loved, you know, growing up, and I kind of felt like, you know, my dad was pretty amazing, you know, and my mom too as well. You know, I remember my mom saying, when you can play guitar as well as me, you can have an electric guitar. Cause I got an acoustic guitar for my first guitar. It was some little, you know, thing you would get a kid, like a nylon thing. And I was like, I want like a electric guitar, you know? And she said, when you can play as well as me, you can have an electric. And, but they always, there were a lot of instruments around. There was like a PA in our garage and a drum setup. And I remember playing the drums on Saturday morning, my dad coming out and going, let me do one thing. He took the cymbals off and put towels over all the drums. He said, okay, carry on. Very, very tolerant, you know, very tolerant of musical exploration. And, you know, if I really wanted an instrument and I made enough of a fuss about it, they would make sure I had it. But, yeah, very supportive family of music. It's almost as if, you know, if my parents were plumbers, you know, I could sort of have an instinctive feeling about plumbing and kind of, you know, it's definitely been an asset for me. You know, these concepts aren't strange or new, making albums or recording myself or recording other people or songwriting, learning songs, tuning strings, changing strings. These are all things that happened in my house.
Right. And were they still touring, like as an act when you were a child?
Oh, yeah. All the way through. Well, my dad was with Emmylou Harris until I was 17. And then they started a folk duo that was on Rounder Records that they toured while I was. In fact, they were on the road, you know, when I was graduated from high school. They weren't there, you know, to my graduation. I mean, music came first. You know, even when my wife and I were going to get married, they were like, well, don't have the wedding on Saturday because we've got a gig, you know, have it on Sunday. So we actually had our wedding on Sunday. So, but they're slowing down a little bit. My dad's slowing down definitely, but my mom still gigs quite a bit, and she plays bass in this band that does a lot of Peruvian music. And you know, she's just always doing stuff.
What do they think of you? I mean, they think you've learned the guitar well enough. They think you've have you hit the bar high enough?
Well, I mean, I got a lot of my dad's guitars in here. I mean, you know, that yellow one over there, and I don't know if you can, yeah. But you know, I mean, I think I don't know. It's a mixture of, they always sort of expected that I would kind of do something magical, and then that they are still sort of, they're impressed. But I also think, I don't know. I think that there was a little bit of reluctance, especially on my dad's part, kind of because of his own experiences and kind of knowing how difficult a road it can be, and maybe thinking, God, there's a lot of easier ways to go. But somebody was talking about Nadia Boulanger, the wonderful composition teacher that was a teacher of Bert's and a teacher of Philip Glass and a teacher of all these wonderful composers. And she used to ask, if you wanted to study with her, she would say, well, can you go a day without thinking about music or working on music? And if your answer was yes, she would say, you're cured, get out of here. You don't need me. But if you said no, then, and that was me. I sort of was in the latter group, where it was just something that no matter what anybody said, I had to find a way to do it. So,
I mean, and you went on to be signed as an artist, right? As solo, before Silver Seas, right?
Yeah, that's right.
How was that experience?
Well, it was really eye-opening, Nick, because, I got to be surrounded by some of my favorite people. Chris Feinstein, rest in peace, wonderful bass player, and Brad Pemberton, and, some really good musicians. Matt Chamberlain. Do people who listen to this podcast, do they know like session musicians and stuff?
I think we have a pretty high quantity of like industry folk that listen. So
yeah, Jay Joyce, wonderful guitarist, wonderful musician, just great keyboard player, bass player, everything. He's just awesome. Songwriter. And T-Bone Burnett, of course, it was almost like the point of that record was not even the record or even like the songs that I had. It was to just get I feel like that was kind of like my college in a way. Like I got to be around T-Bone and sort of like absorb like how he would look at certain situations and what ones he felt like needed him to intervene and what ones to sort of back away from. And so I was just kind of, I don't know. In the back of my mind, I think I was thinking, this guy's pretty cool. I think I might like to do something sort of along those lines maybe at some point. So I was sort of watching him, but it was also painful because, he was on such a roll at that point, having hits. And, I was so much younger than these other artists. I was like 19, and Adam Duritz was like in his 30s and writing these really like kind of, quite deep sounding lyrics to me. Now, when I sort of listen to them, I don't know. He's sort of a pop songwriter. I admired Adam Duritz quite a bit. And Jacob Dylan to a degree. These were projects that sort of bookended my album. And I just didn't feel that I had enough experience in my life to kind of like, I didn't have a whole lot of, I had cowboy chords and I had a lot of enthusiasm, but I don't know. I felt a bit fish out of water getting out there to LA, and the ball was moving quite fast, I felt. And I just was sort of, could have used a little more time developing my thing, but how's that answer?
That's a great answer. And did you, what did you get out of it? Did you get one or two records? Did you?
Well, I got a pretty good deal for a singer-songwriter, but after I made a record, it took a long time and it was quite expensive. And in the end, it didn't do what they wanted to do. And there was a whole regime change at the label, and Bob Krasnow, who had been kind of a fan of mine, was gone, and Sylvia Rohn had come in. And, there was a lot of kind of pressure on the album to be more, grungy, because that was what was quite big. And so like things like, it was a country rock record. Bucky Baxter played the steel. There was steel all over the place. Don Heffington from Emmylou's band played on it, and they made me take all the steel off. They were like, this sounds like Vince Gill, man. They made me take all the things out of it that gave it an identity that was interesting. And what it became was this sort of bland grunge rock singer-songwriter album. And you understand the difficulty that A&R find themselves in. It is a very often thankless and very difficult job being an A&R, because, you're constantly got one eye sort of cocked on what's working, and the other eye cocked on, the artist. And it's very hard to, be innovative in that sphere sometimes. And so I didn't have that perspective at all. I was just mad.
Right. Well, thank you for acknowledging it as a former A&R guy, because as I tell people, you don't know how many times I had to quit my job or threaten to, because it's really hard to be an artist advocate. And at those times, the organizations of record companies were super large, right? Because of distribution. I mean, you're talking about thousands of people. You're trying to march in one direction. And I mean, I used to have to, I was a young 20-year-old kid who like was so passionate. And so I'm just an ideologue. And, man, it was a really hard job. You're right. We'll leave it at that.
Very hard. I think even harder than being an artist. I think it's even harder. I mean, to me, it would just be very difficult.
Yeah. Well, I still see some of my artists say things in interviews that are like, that's not really true. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not how it went down. I kind of protected you from how it went down, so you don't really know how it went down.
Right. So, interesting.
Yeah. So it's interesting to see that sometimes in the public space. It's like, not right. So, but anyway, how did, so you had the Silver Seas, did that come right after then, or was that something down the road further?
Well, no, I went to art. I went back home, moved back in with my parents, and then I went to art school for a couple years, and I really sort of put the guitar under the bed for a while. I mean, I kind of, it was a bit, I was burned out. I mean, it was a tough, it was a tough stretch for me, but, sort of a bit like my kind of first glimpse of disappointment in the music industry, which is really important, I think, to kind of wrap your head around, because, if you aren't able to like handle disappointment, that's why I always just sort of wonder what people's lives are like who, when the first thing that they try to do is just a wild success. I mean, I think disappointment is going to rear its head in everyone's life at some point or another. But for me, it kind of, everything was going fine and things just kept getting better and better and better until they didn't. And, I got dropped and, I got dropped from my publishing deal and got dropped from everybody. They were just like, no, you're out of here. See ya. And, fair enough. I mean, I'm grateful for that experience. But I got real depressed and started watching movies all day long, and I got a therapist and, started kind of building my strength back up and got real into photography. And then slowly, like I couldn't really stay away from the music, I just kind of kept having these little ideas. And so I started taking guitar lessons with this guy, Justin Thompson. And what I realized was there was this whole world of music that like I had not, I had known that it existed, like polychords and stuff like that, like chords laid over underneath other chords, and major seventh chords and minor nine chords and all these things that give, music this kind of luxurious sound that like I had just really, it was like a whole new paint box when I started working with this guy, and he was like, yeah, this is really going to open up your songwriting. He said it very like offhandedly, but it really did. And it was like, whoa. And once I had all these new colors, I couldn't stop writing songs. And that's when the Silver Seas started happening. Yeah.
I mean, and that's still, and how did that project work out for you? I mean, it's still an ongoing living band.
Yeah. I mean, right now it's like, we've got a few new songs Jason and I have written, but what we're working on now is sort of a digital box set. We're going to kind of put like everything in one place where it's just all consolidated, something like 7 or 8 records, and then some demos and some extra songs. And we're just going to have it all consolidated, because I get messages all the time. All right, where's this thing? I can't find it. And the songs, they'll like come up and down on different streaming services, and just going to get it all consolidated and out everywhere, so everybody can find, all 7 people can find it that want to.
Breaking news. I think it's more than 7, but okay. Whatever you say. I mean, would you tour around that?
I mean, it would depend. I'm definitely not opposed to it. I've definitely been, sitting around the house a little bit. So talk to me. What are we talking about? Where are we going?
200 dates around the world. So
I don't know if I'd go that far.
So how did like this Nashville path happen for you? And like, how did you kind of transition into this producing, songwriting path in Nashville?
Well, when I moved back into it with my parents, I read this book called The Art of Record Production, and I can't remember who wrote it, but he was a really nice guy. He had worked with Spandau Ballet, and he was talking about how hard it was to sort of inform the drummer in Spandau Ballet that he needed some help timing wise, and things like that, the different problems that producers. But I really got into this book, and I thought, maybe my troubles are that I'm not really a good sort of front man, because a front man needs to kind of have a certain amount of swagger, and kind of be willing to kind of take on the job of being like a sort of like a mystic, a shaman for the whole kind of, well, really the ceremony that a live performance kind of is. And so I thought maybe my problems are stemming from the fact that my personality is better suited to being kind of more of a behind the scenes type of player. And what would that sort of look like? And then I would see, different people around. So I just started, I got one of these digital recorders. I convinced my aunt and uncle to buy one for me. It was like $2,000 for 8 tracks. And I got this and I put it in my old bedroom that I had when I was a kid. And I borrowed a microphone from somebody and just started recording, my own songs. Sure. But like those were sort of half-hearted because I was still toying with this idea that I didn't really want to be a front man. And a funny thing about that is there was a Lefsetz letter where he had encountered one of the Silver Seas songs, and he was basically saying like, this is a great song, this is a great band, but the guy who's singing is almost like, sounds like he doesn't really want to be a front man. And I did not want to be, and he was absolutely right. Although it hurt my feelings at the time, he hit on something very true, which I think makes the Silver Seas a bit unique in the sense is that it is true that I'm sort of like kind of singing like I got a bunch of rocks in my mouth, and like I just sort of don't really, not that I don't want to be there, but I'm not going to be there I'm going to be there in a non-offensive way, which is a really good way to get ignored, so anyway, it's just the way I do it. And I don't remember what the question was now. I'm sorry.
So it's going to be the Reluctant Front Man was going to be your next band name. So,
well, no, it is true. Yeah, that's it. And I don't really feel that way, but I do think like, I remember seeing, I remember Jim Rooney one time took me to somewhere, it was some bar, and there was this woman in Nashville, and she was singing Angel from Montgomery, and she was going, make me an angel fly from Montgomery, just like, and he just was wincing. He just went, oh God. He leaned over and he said, I hate all this emoting. And I realized that there was a style of singing that was very where the singer wasn't letting the melody and the words do the work, but they were instead feeling that they needed to invest like almost like a Hollywood type of performance into the singing. And I just sort of like, that was a road that was going this way and I was just going the other way. And I still just can't stand it when people tell you the story of the song with their face when they're singing it. They like kind of act it out. Drives me crazy.
Oh man, not a Freddie Mercury fan then.
Oh no,
I'm kidding.
I adore Freddie Mercury. I don't think he struggles. I don't. Yeah, he's in a different category because that's really, Queen is quite theatrical, so that's something else.
Yeah.
And
how is
good point?
Like, how did that, like, as you moved into your production duties, though? I mean, that's like a really important lesson right there. I mean, has that informed you in a lot of cases with some of the people you've worked with?
Well, yes and no. I mean, people sort of sing the way that they sing, and it's you can lead a horse to water, and sometimes once you get there, they realize that they don't want water, they want Gatorade, and I guess I would sort of have a preference, but if the world was all operating within my sphere of taste, it would be a pretty boring world, because I have the things that I like. So I'm really trying to expand what's inside my circle of taste, and just to open myself to up to things, but I still I'm like that Heinz ketchup kind of person. I just keep coming back into my things that I like, and I don't know. It's hard.
From what I hear, banana ketchup is really popular around the world. I mean, I've never had it, but careful. So let me ask you, how did like the Burt Bacharach thing kind of come into your life? How did that project initiate?
Well, it's funny. I remember my grandmother, whose maiden name was Bacharach. And I remember hearing Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head as a child and thinking, what a song. Now that's something, man. And just anyone can understand that. A 4-year-old can understand what that song is all about. And I just knew what that guy was singing about and what he meant and everything about it. And she said, yeah, he's a distant cousin of ours. And that just stuck in my mind, And as I got older, I got more and more into his music, and just he sort of became my favorite. I think it was maybe, in the Silver Seas times when I started to kind of recognize some of the chords that were happening in my lessons in his music. And then when that Elvis Costello record came out, Painted from Memory, man, that was a game changer for me. That was an incredible record. And I just, I never dreamed that I would sort of get to do something with him, but I wanted to. And what I initially wanted to do was, I knew someone that worked in the symphony, and I was like, we should get Burt Bacharach in here to Nashville to play at our new symphony hall. And I could sort of curate the different singers, and we could get a whole catalog together and give him a hero's welcome in Nashville. He's never performed here since, I don't know when. And they were like, thanks for your idea, wise guy. We're all good over here. Then he magically appears maybe a year later after I suggested that, for one night only. It's his only North American date at the Nashville Symphony. So I go to the show, I call him up and I say, hey, this was my idea. You got to give me some tickets. And they were like, fair enough. We'll give you some tickets. And they gave me and a friend some tickets, and we went, and they had us sitting along a wall. So like if the stage is right in front of you, I was kind of like sitting like this. I don't know why they didn't give me the best tickets in the house, but people don't properly appreciate me as much as they should. But anyway, and of course it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. I mean, he came out, and the very first thing you heard, the lights go down, and then this is what you hear. You hear this, wait, here it goes, right here. This is what you heard. This wonderful minor 9 chord, and it's just him at the piano. And man, wow. And I don't know, I guess you would sort of feel this way if you were like a kid in Iowa and it's 1965 and you're watching the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and you just feel this incredible homesick feeling. Like, I just wanted to be in a room with that guy and talking about music and sharing ideas with him, even though I knew that I had no reason to be there other than he was supposedly a distant cousin. And then a few months later, I kind of put it on a vision board, and then a few months later, this woman that I knew approached me, Melody Federer. She said, I've written some lyrics and Bert's put them to music. Would you want to make a demo? I was like, here's my shot. So I made the demo, sent it to him. He was like, this is terrible. Let me call you. I want to call you and talk to you about this. He called me and was like, you missed all the cues on the lead sheet, and I was like, I couldn't believe I was talking to, the phone rang and there he was, and I was talking to him, and I said, what lead sheet? He said, I sent it to you. I was like, oh yeah, that thing. It was like, no, it wasn't that I I just couldn't read any of them, And he said, okay, let me tell you where the dynamics are. You're like coming down in dynamics when you need to be going up. But something about me, he thought I was okay. So he was like, well, you should come out to the Grammys. And, when I went out to the Grammys, I went to lunch at his house the day after the Grammys. He invited me because I think he sort of took me under his wing. He saw me as like someone who was kind of experiencing, some of the dizzying heights of where you can kind of get to, and he had been to, before, and winning album of the year. I think that was worthy of being on his calendar for a lunch date. So I went and had lunch, and I had a little lyric with me, and he had put some music to it, and it was just some, and then we were off, and now we're like best friends. He's just the greatest guy ever. He's like my dad.
That is such a great story, man. Such a great story. And Nashville Symphony, beware. But no, it's man, the fact that someone of that stature kind of opened up and kind of let you in, as a mentor. Yeah. I mean, that's fantastic.
Yeah, well, I get it. This is the thing I think with these people is they want to be understood, and I get where he's coming from. I understand why he makes the decisions that he makes, and I understand what he's trying to accomplish. And so I want to be in his life as a vehicle for what he's trying to do. And, you always want that. You always want people to get you, and you always want people to help you. And I think he hears something in my voice that is a way for me to project his ideas in a singing way that he likes. And I feel super honored to be able to do that. And again, it's a non-confrontational voice that I have, for better or for worse. I love that expression, for better or for worse.
And is there more to come from that collaboration?
Oh yeah. We got some bad new songs, man. We got 2 new songs we're working on right now, and they're both stunners. Yeah, I mean, we don't do bad songs. I mean, there was this one song we worked on called California Light, and we worked on it for like a year, and I was like all about it, but he was like, he could never get it. He could never get it where he felt good about it, so he just scraps it. So if it's not good, he doesn't. He tries, but yeah,
that's awesome. And so I can't leave you without, talking about one Kacey Musgraves. I have to say, when I heard Golden Hour, it is the most sublimely perfect record I may have ever heard in my life. I mean, it moved me emotionally. It immediately made me never stop listening to it. I mean, I don't know what you guys did. It is such a masterwork.
Well, we had a lot of things going for us. We were kind of under the radar. We didn't have, anyone in the label capacity kind of with their eye on the marketplace, sort of saying, you guys are over here and the market's actually over here. We just had, we had a wonderful studio, Sheryl Crow, and Sound Emporium here. Sheryl Crow so graciously let us kind of hide out over at her place. I think there was definitely a spirit of exploration. It was the first major label album that I produced or was a producer on. There was I felt a lot of generosity. I felt generosity was coming to me, and I felt like I was feeling very generous with, I had gone through, everybody does, but I'd gone through these phases where I would be like making up an idea and be like, ooh, this is a really good idea. I've got to save this for Silver Seas, or I need to save this for, something, I don't know. And I just wasn't feeling like hoarderish about my ideas at all. I was feeling very, and I still, do, but, so I was feeling very generous with my ideas, and I felt that the universe was kind of mirroring that back at me in a lot of different ways. We've all got those records. I mean, for me, like Katie Lang's Ingenue, when you said the word sublime, that was the first thing that jumped into my mind, was how I felt listening to that record, and how it still, and has been for decades, is in my top 5 albums of all time. And just every note on there is so intentional and so elegant and so beautiful. And, I'm a middle class kid, I never was, really, I went to a private school for a minute, but I was never a rich kid, but I know what to me sounds like luxurious and sounds elegant. And I always want my music to sound expensive, because like music that someone feels is worthy of being invested in is not something that I've always had. And so, strings, reverb, that's why I love reverb so much, because, one of the things I feel proudest about Golden Hour was a reverb technique that I kind of developed, using compression to prevent the reverb from happening at the same time as a vocal, but happening later. And, well, I shouldn't say I developed that. I mean, it was just something that I kind of learned about and used, and is sort of it's a character on that album, the reverb. Yeah, so I'm always trying to make things sound expensive, Nick, and I'm always wanting to be up there in that rarefied air with those things that meant so much to me as a young person. So,
well, you've accomplished making expensive records then, in the good way.
Exactly. Well, it's like you do it cheaply, but you try to make it sound expensive because you want it to sound like something. I never want to be lo-fi. I mean, it's like I want it to sound as good as it can. I understand character, and character can be quite expensive. Just distortion is harmonic and really beautiful if used properly.
Absolutely, it's true. And now you have this Star-Crossed album released. Obviously, there's some confusion where it fits in with the Grammys. Do you have anything to say about this category confusion?
Well, I think it's unfortunate, and I think it's narrow-sighted. You've got there's like a committee, which is sort of a secret committee, and you don't really know who's on there, and they're taking up matters about eligibility. And I understand that there are, like, you don't really want to have the album in the wrong category, but in this situation, I do think that it was unfortunate. And it's something that Nashville kind of has a history of doing. Everybody has a lot of nice things to say about Nashville, and that's fine and everything, but if you sort of look historically, when, someone like Willie Nelson makes something like A Redheaded Stranger or something like that, they're like, no, man, Eddie Rabbitt, that's what we want. And I like Eddie Rabbitt, but it's always to kind of like, I think that someone was afraid that if Kacey was in the country category where she belongs, that she would win. And I think that's why she's not in there. And I think that she really is good, and she really is an innovator. She's from Texas. Every time she opens her mouth, no matter what, it's country, because it's just who she is. She's a country singer, in the sense that it's in the way she forms words, and she really is a great artist and really innovative. And Nashville sort of has a history of kind of, let's just sort of scooch you over here so we can get these other people. The people that you're going to see in that category, I guarantee you are not as innovative or interesting or really probably as good. And there's a reason, because, so I do think it's unfortunate. And I feel sad about it because, I grew up with the Grammys kind of representing excellence and innovation and connection. It makes me sad because it's like you want to value these institutions, and you want to look at them as, you really want to believe that they are, sort of champions of greatness and champions of artistic, creativity and innovation and true soul. And when things like this happen, you realize that there's a little bit of caveat to those type of things, and I guess.
Yeah, there's certain categories that they just can't ever get right. You know what I mean? And whether that's the politics of a country thing, or even like the hard rock or the metal stuff always gets screwed up, right? So there's just these categories where they always misfire.
But I guess let's be honest, it is a little tough to kind of like keep everything in its proper place. Music is always evolving, and it's very hard to like, I mean, what a hard job to just keep everything in the proper category. I mean, it's just, Frank Sinatra is like, it's just music. I mean, it's pop, but what if he's doing, one for my baby and one for the road? It's like, that's kind of a country song, or what if, Ray Charles is doing a country song, or it's just so hard to like keep everybody in line, and country is especially kind of, shitty in the sense that it just seems to just kind of reward the wrong type of innovation and sort of, I don't know. We could go on about this forever, but
right. Well, you live there. We don't want to get you in too much trouble. And yes, categories suck pretty much, especially when it comes to art.
Here's the thing. I mean, I love regional music. Like, I love the fact that when you go to New Orleans, there's this sound that you'll hear on the radio, and this is regional New Orleans music. I mean, if genres were about a region, like, to me, like, that's totally cool. I don't really have anything against genres, as a way for people to sort of classify things. It's just, I don't know. I don't like the idea of living in a world where you can't hear like the region that music is from. Like Swedish pop music has a certain type of sound that I like, and it's like, okay, that's some Max Martin like sound, it's Swedish. It's a Swedish sound, and or East Coast rap and West Coast rap, or Tribe Called Quest versus the things that Snoop and Dre got that pioneered in the West Coast sound. Or I like hearing those regional differences. So maybe they should divide things regionally. I don't know.
Agreed. So let me ask you, after you win Album of the Year, all that stuff with Golden Hour, I mean, has it changed? Look, it's changed a lot of things, I'm sure, but how you decide on taking a project on, is that changed at all? Or are you just staying on your path? I'm sure you're getting offered more commercial type of artists that are maybe 2 or 3 records down the road. How has that changed your view of your career?
Well, it's constantly evolving. I mean, there definitely were a few things that came out of the woodwork that we got involved in, and not everything works. Like that's one of the things that I'm just sort of like was kind of a bit of an eye opener for me. Was like, I sort of thought, this will give me the cachet that I need and the sort of the trust that I need coming from the business side of things, that people will be like, okay, now we're going to trust you to, give us something that we can do something with. But what I didn't realize is that that's totally not the case. And so it's always like a battle to sort of, get everybody on the same page in terms of like, can we do that? Can we do this? And this is how I think we should do this. But I'm definitely pickier, and I've learned to identify some red flags. Like if somebody kind of comes at me and they really kind of want to get a certain kind of sound of something that I've done before, I mean, it makes you pause, because it's a real easy way to just screw up, because nobody can be Kacey. And, so you're going on a little bit of a wild goose chase if you're going to try to recreate something, or if that's kind of what you got in your mind. I mean, maybe we could use some of the same instrumentation, or we could use similar reverb treatments, but then what are we doing? We're just kind of, that's not satisfying. We're just sort of trying to copy ourselves, and nobody at the end of the day goes home. It's like, yeah, this was a great day at work today. I just tried to copy myself from something I did 4 years ago. You just kind of want to, I don't know, you want to work with people that are interested in exploration and greatness, and just kind of, so yeah, it has changed a little bit. Well,
you want a career, right? I mean, in the 90s, there were go-to mixers, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone's using the same mixers.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it only lasts for 5 years, 8 years, maybe. And then kind of it's the end of their careers in a way, because that's over. So you don't want to be put in that box.
Well, I might be over. I don't know.
You're not.
I don't know. That's part of the reason why I just have to keep doing my own projects because, I do have opinions and I do have perspective, and the easiest way to do that is not to sort of impose that on an artist, but just make my own things, and kind of keep getting better at this stuff, because there's a lot to learn, man. It is hard. I really, I'm amazed at some of the tracks that come out that there's three things in them, like a vocal, a bass line, and a clap. And it's just wow, you just did so much with three objects, it's just incredible. And I don't know really how to do that. I mean, I'm such a layering, I just used so many layers of things that I don't know. It's just amazing to me, but that's what I mean. There's so much to learn, and it's a joy and an honor and a privilege to be able to do this kind of stuff. And it is what I dreamed of, and it's what I wanted when I was a kid, and what I wanted. And I get to kind of have the best of both worlds, because whenever the world of production becomes frustrating, and there's a lot of, let's face it, there's a lot of frustrations you can find once you start to involve big power players in the music industry, and big money, and the different markets and what they need, and genres and all that kind of stuff. You get it real easy to get yourself frustrated. And so when that happens, it's nice to have a world you can go to, which is your own music, and you can sort of do it, if you're me, the way you like to do it, and there's something I don't know if I would be able to do the production stuff if I didn't do my own music, because I think I would just be like, man, fuck this. This is too hard.
Well, Daniel, listen, thank you for sharing the career path, because I always want people to hear that there's no straight lines, no real hockey sticks here. I mean, this is a path that's got many twists and turns to it, and failure to it, and trying things. I mean, that's what it's about. So thank you for sharing that. I always want people to see that it's not a straight line to success.
Somebody said something one time that if a song comes out, it's a success. I think it was Rick Rubin. I think, and I mean, I don't agree with everything he says, but that was one thing he said that I liked, because, if you just get something out, it's just such a miraculous thing, because a lot of stuff is just I don't know. Do you think I should have a Patreon? Because it's not because I want, an extra $150 a month or whatever. It's because I like helping people with these kind of dilemmas,
Listen, I have certain Patreons I subscribe to, and with people that are very generous. I mean, literally you pay, $1 to $9 a month, and the knowledge you get out of that and the feedback loop is so valuable. It goes way beyond $9 a month. Yeah. So I think someone should really be doing that around music. Most of the ones I have around finance.
Interesting.
It'd be really curious to do some of that around art and music. Mm.
Well,
I support it.
Okay.
Let me know if I can help. So the EP it's a Snow Globe World. It's out today, and let's take Christmas even out of the word here. These songs are really, really great songs. The performances are fantastic. So
thanks, man. Expect another one. I'm going to keep doing this. It's I keep picking up the bone and gnawing on the Christmas bone. I can't put it down. I'll probably have another one next year. I just love doing these things because, one of the things I love about it is you always know when you pick up a guitar to write a Christmas song, what you're doing. You don't have to scratch your head and think, what am I writing a song about? You know exactly what nouns need to be in there, and you know what colors need to be in there. It's green and red and gold and silver and white. a lot of decisions are already made for you, which I love.
Well, you can still push those boundaries, though. That's what's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time, Daniel. You are truly, truly talented. I appreciate the transparency here, and you're being so open and generous with sharing kind of your path here.
My pleasure.
Stay healthy and happy holidays to you and your family.
Okay, you too, Nick. Thanks for having me on, man.
My pleasure. Thank you for listening. This show originates from the podcast capital, Austin, Texas. My producer is Sean O'Neill. Visit theradicalpod.com for updates and even some merchandise. Also, please subscribe at Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And I also ask that you please share episodes with your friends so we can continue to grow our community. See you all again next Friday.